Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to class. We are back again and continuing on. So how many we got here today? Okay, we're still waiting for a few folks to log on, but how's everyone doing? Hopefully we're doing good, enjoying our morning, staying cool, I hope. But we will go ahead and take a moment to begin while we wait for the class to join us. And we'll start off with the warm-up this morning. So let's see if that file actually shared. Okay. And let's make sure it's sharing screen because I do not see it on my file here. Okay. And so technically we should be able to see the file. Let me go ahead and verify. We have Keynote, we have Google Chrome, we have desktop. Two Keynote files that are open. Okay, there it goes. I wanted to see this green window over my window. So first of all, morning guys. We're gonna start off with a warm-up, and we're going to, as we kind of mentioned yesterday, talk a little bit about principles and elements of design. So we're gonna analyze this piece of art from Paul Rand as the first thing we're gonna do this morning. And then as soon as we jump into it, we're going to move into Photoshop, and we're literally going to start editing in Photoshop in real time and start talking a little bit about cloud documents and what that looks like and how you're going to open files, create them, edit them, share the document with me, and then ultimately get that assignment turned in. So we have a lot of moving parts going on today. And if there's a couple of issues regarding file formats, installing a Photoshop, we'll talk about that immediately this morning, and we'll review those details right away, okay? So let me go ahead and direct everyone first to the Canvas system, because it will be on Canvas, this warm-up. And if you go to today's posting or today's discussion, you'll see it right on top of your screen there. And let me go ahead and open it up here. And let me come back to my Canvas main page. So we can get that going. And you will find the discussion post down here today for, let me just kind of adjust. I always like my arrows to be here, right down here. So it's going to be under the discussion post. So day 7 discussion post. If you go ahead and click onto that, then we will go ahead and see the post for today, which is the principles of design. You'll also notice that I also included the principles, the elements, and also the transition statements, along with red arrows to indicate where, what are the 6 core principles. So basically I give you all the methods, I give you all the content of what it's supposed to be there. But I wanna make sure that we're writing it appropriately. So we wanna make sure that we're just kind of making sure you're indicating the 6 principles, that every sentence indicates the elements, and of course starting the sentence appropriately with that transition statement, okay? So you can use this as you're typing, and we want to follow that format that we had talked about a couple of days ago, where you're basically using like the first sentence as the opening sentence, second sentence is the commentary, the 6 red sentences after that are your principles, followed by the last sentence, which is green. So if you want to use that as a reference to, you can, but we want to take a look at this particular image and analyze it by Paul Rand, okay? So what's the focal point? What's the first thing you see? What's the balance? How do you see that? So take a moment. Let's give it about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, just to kind of put this statement together, okay? And then as soon as that's done, then we'll kind of address, I'll send a couple of messages to a few folks to address some issues that we have going on with Photoshop. So Jelena, we're gonna see if we can get that fixed for you today. And then we'll try to also include as well, Francesca, I might need your help for that too, but Jolene's not here yet. So we'll go into a breakout room in just a quick second, Francesca, so we can talk a little bit about that, about how to install and how to detect your email, because Jolene was having some issues with that this morning, okay? So let me go ahead and create that breakout room, and then we'll talk a little bit about that as well. In fact, I'll wait for her to show up hopefully in the next few minutes so that we can see what is going on and what the situation is, okay? For the rest of the class, we're gonna be working on the warm-up. So go ahead and direct that onto Canvas. It is today's discussion. You'll be working on that today and writing those principles of design, okay? Okay, all right, guys. Take a few moments and we'll check in about 10, 15 minutes. Okay, guys, we're almost there. If you're still typing away, let me know. And if you have already completed the warm-up, if you could type in that you completed it on the chat, that would be great. Just want to make sure who's still working on it. So then that way we can kind of get you set up there, okay? So take a couple of seconds and we'll get you situated. We're just working on some Photoshop accessing issues here. So let me go take a moment there and we'll get started momentarily. Okay, guys. So we have been a little bit busy this morning. So a couple of things that I just wanted to kind of go over really quick. Now, when it comes to principles of design, I took a look at some of your references here, and I just wanted to kind of mention a couple of things for your presentation. Okay. Let me go ahead and switch over. And actually, we'll go to Canvas, and we'll take a little bit of a closer look at the Canvas page. Okay. Day 5, elements and principles of design. And then principles of design is here, which has the presentation. And on the link here, which is number 2, there is a notification here, which is the writing prompt sheet. Okay, so we have this as an example, right? Which is your format here and how to write it. One of the things I want to emphasize is that for all principles of design, there will always be 6, right? So every slide should indicate the 6 different principles, okay? There's no 3, there's no 2, there's no 1. There's always 6 throughout all the designs, okay? So for every slide as you're writing this week, we want to be really, really clear that you want to do the 6 principles of design and mention them automatically in your presentation. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me just kind of go ahead and mention that really quickly and show a quick sample, because you always want to make sure we do that. We'll analyze it together, but we always want to make sure that you're seeing those 6. So this is a really good example that I'm about to show you. We'll go over it in just a couple of moments. But notice in this sample slide that there are that there is a format, right? Notice that the 6 different principles are noted in yellow. So we obviously have contrast, focal point, asymmetrical balance, proportion, harmony, variety. So this particular writer mentioned all the principles within their design, okay? And so we always want to break down and ask the question, where in our design are the 6 different principles, okay? So we'll go over it down the list. I mean, we have basically, we can kind of go down the list and kind of discuss it a little bit. But based on what we see here, okay, every slide must have 6, because you're technically getting 6 points per slide. And so it's about 60 points. So 10 images, 6 principles, 60 points. So we give you a point for every principle that's mentioned within that presentation. Okay. So we'll go down this list. Okay. And we'll mention first the principles of design. So we'll kind of like give it a moment here, because it's really important that we can see the 6 within the design in order for it to be effective. So let me go ahead and just kind of like pause that for just a quick second. And let's just go over the 6, okay? So really quick, first thing that we're doing here, okay, is indicating the first thing that you see. Okay, so in the design, I always say, hey, what's the first thing that you see within this? Now, quick reference, Paul Rand is a famous graphic designer, considered the godfather, the father of graphic design as we know it. And he basically sort of formulated this method that made all artwork beautiful, but graphically communicative, meaning that he was able to make art out of these businesses and the work that they created, which typically were very separate things for the time. He was able to bring this like high quality level of art to something as crazy as a company, so he kind of brought high value design into the modern world. Okay, my question to you guys is that if always take the position of like a kid, of a child. If you were if a child were to come in, if you were 5 years old and they saw this image for the first time, what is the first thing that they would see? Okay, which is the obvious. What is the first thing that they would notice in this image? Okay, you can type it in the chat, or you can voice it out. But what's the first thing? What is essentially the first thing that they would notice in this particular design? Okay, yeah, it's the apple. It's red, right? So guess what your focal point is? The focal point is the apple. Okay, so principle number one, or one of the 6 principles, is that we have a clear focal point in this particular design. Okay, so the focal point is the apple. Okay, and you can't have a focal point without creating contrast. Okay, so contrast is, and if you notice on your list here, okay, when you look at your principles of design list, I want to get this exploded a little bit larger. Okay, there's different types of contrast, right? There's a contrast of size, shape, and color. Okay, so we want to indicate what is the contrast. There's only 3 that you can choose from. So just by looking at this, well, what is the contrast that we see in the design? Is it contrasting sizes? So, which is the differences, right? If there's a red apple, that means that the red is different from something else. So what's the something else that the apple's different from? So we see an apple, and that's noticeable, right? But why is the apple standing out? It's contrasting what? It's different than what on the design? What would you say is different about the apple compared to something else on the design? And type it in the chat. What is the something else? The apple is different from this other thing in the design. What is the other thing that it's different from? Okay. In your opinion. Okay, background. Okay, so it has like this sort of peach background. There's paint splatters, the lines, and the background. And by lines, be more specific. What kind of lines? Are we talking about the paint splatter line? Are we referring to the light gray or peach background, right? We want to be very specific as you're writing this, right? So automatically, we're going down the list. There's contrast. Oh, okay. There's a focal point, right, which is the red apple. It's contrasting the black splatter. Okay. It's contrasting the lighter background. They're both correct. Okay. It's contrasting that. So now we've gotten a very good sentence, right? A very good structure. If I had to write this out, there are multiple. Sentence 1, multiple principles of design, period. Sentence 2, the principles are contrast, list the 6, right? Contrast, there is focal point, proportion and scale, harmony, variety in the design as well, right? And we'll talk about balance in just a second. Okay, so that's those first 2. Great. So we got those covered. All right, let's keep on moving on. Let me go back to the list here with the arrows. Okay, so now let's talk about balance. There's only 2 types of balance in a design. You could say that the design is symmetrical or asymmetrical. Okay, definition, symmetrical means if I took the picture, split it down in the middle, okay, and folded it in half, then what's on the left is the same as what's on the right. Okay, so let's start with that question as you're analyzing the design, as we're analyzing this design, okay? So if I took the image and I split this down the middle, okay? Okay, and I drew a line down this middle section here, okay? Is the left section exactly the same as the right? Type in yes or no. Is the left, which includes the letters, which includes everything in that red box, right? Is the left the same as on the right? Absolutely not, right? So it's not symmetrical. That's right, Talia. It's asymmetrical, right? So asymmetrical means that it's not the same on the left than it is on the right. And you can be really specific about that. Well, why is it not the same on the left? Or why is it asymmetrical? And this is like a sentence, right? The modern art cover is asymmetrical because we have, well, what exactly is happening on the left? What is happening on the left in your description that's different than on the right? Go ahead and type that in the chat. You know, this, the Modern Art USA cover is asymmetrical because we see what on the left that's different than on the right, okay? All right, green is only present on the right-hand side, right? So we only see, yeah, we see, or more specifically, we see a green color or green organic shape that's visible on the right than on the left. That's a good example. Anything else that's different? There's a lot of differences, right? It is different because the apple's tilted to the right and the paint splatters aren't a pattern. So more specific, I would say that it's asymmetrical because the apple is predominantly visible on the right-hand side, right, due to the tilt. Or we could even say that there's paint splatters or a majority of paint splatters on the right-hand side that differs than on the left. So font as well, yeah, it's asymmetrical because we have type or text visible on the left portion of the cover than on the right, right? The title and it's asymmetrical because the title on the left and the black splatter pattern is more concentrated on the left, right? Or we see more of these elements of the paint splatter and the type on the left side of the canvas or the image versus the right. So these are all, you're all right in terms of the different ways that it's asymmetrical, right? And this is great because that means that there's so many different ways to make a design asymmetrical. Just by analyzing that image, right? Oh, so I can also, or you guys at home can add type or move type to the left. You guys can also put things at a tilt. You guys could also add more elements on the left versus the right. Does this kind of make sense? When we ask the question, when we analyze, there are actually ways that we can do the same thing in our own designs. And I always say asymmetrical, if you can design asymmetrically, your work will always look 10 times better because asymmetrical's design is what typically ends up in the world famous museums, right? People like differences, people like things that are different from one to the other. In this instance, in graphic design, it happens to be different from left versus right-hand side, okay? Okay, great examples, okay? Let's move on to then is proportion and scale. So the other principle is, the next sentence is proportion and scale, right? So what's bigger, what's smaller? This would be we have two sentences to begin, two sentences that this would be like your fifth sentence. Next, we see that there is proportion and scale within the design because, or visibly noticeable by the X bigger versus X smaller. X is the what. So what's bigger? And that's the big thing. That's the thing that's being brought out into proportion. And what's smaller? Now there's a lot of big things versus a lot of small things. You know, let's start with some obvious and then work from there. So proportion and scale because this is bigger than this smaller thing. Type it in the chat. It is there is proportion and scale because we notice a larger this versus a smaller that on the design. What would that be? What would you say that would be? Okay, so identify two things, one big, one small, and tell me what the bigger and the smaller are. Okay, and there's a lot of big versus a lot of small things. Again, this is what makes design so interesting. It doesn't have to be just one versus the other. It can be multiple things. So what are some examples of larger things and smaller things happening in this design? Okay, take the position of a 5-year-old and be like, oh, this is really big on the page compared to this that's small on the paper. Okay, what would that be? Okay, proportion and scale. Proportion and scale. Okay, you can even say that's similar to contrast in a way, but what would that be? What would that be necessarily? Okay. Okay, we'll start with the obvious. Okay, the apple is bigger compared to the black ink pattern. Yeah, absolutely. Apple takes up more space than the text. Yeah, so that's another good comparison. It's Apple's bigger than the splatter. Apple is bigger than the text or the font, right? When you analyze your designs, include the fonts, include the writing. They are also part of the design. In fact, they are as important as every element in the design. So it's not just graphic drawings. Graphic includes letters, fonts, text. So always include the text. So that's a good example. Anything else? You could even take it a step further. And if you really want to nitpick, you could say that the title is bigger than the subtitles or subtext, right? So you could even say that, oh, well, there's clear proportion and scale happening from Apple versus splatter, Apple versus type, from title versus subtitle. You could even include that as well. So there's a lot of variations of proportion and scale. Again, this is another technique you can do too. It doesn't have to be one plus the other. It could be one plus two things or something else that is bigger than smaller happening at the same time. So there's groupings of big and small happening in here in design. So that adds to it as well. Okay, good example. Now let's go to the last two, which is harmony and scale. Excuse me, harmony and variety. Now, harmony is what's similar. Okay, what's happening in this graphic that is similar, that makes it look put together, that makes it look good, that makes it look interesting, right? Versus what's different. So let's talk about that. Okay, in this, we're going to talk about it from the point of view of the art elements. Okay, so there's harmony. Harmony means there's a lot of what happening, a lot of similar things happening here. Now, in my head, I say, the first thing I say, are there similar lines? Are there similar shapes, similar brightnesses, similar shades, I should say, similar colors, similar spacing, similar sizes? But what do you see here that's the same? What do you see a lot of that is the same? Okay, let's start with the lines. Okay, do you see a lot of similar lines? And by lines, I mean straight lines, curvy lines, or circular lines. What do you see a lot more of in that design? Okay. Okay. So, okay, we'll see a lot of a splatter. Okay, but let's be more specific. We see a lot of paint splatter. Okay, which is the harmony, but what is it? How did the designer create the paint splatter? Okay, what are the paint splatters made of? How would I draw a paint splatter? Okay, what would you do to draw a paint splatter? Same width, and they're all curved. Okay, so we see a lot of curved lines. So that's harmony. So we see a lot of curved lines, circular shapes. I see a lot of dots or organic ellipses or organic round shapes, a lot of dots. So we see a lot of similar dots happening there. So you're all coming in correct. I see a lot of curved lines. I see a lot of circular shapes happening in here. Okay. I see also a lot of similar colors, right? I mean, we could probably say there are like two dominant colors here with 1/3 color as a highlight. So, what is the predominant color, or what color do we see more of in the design? That's the harmony. So I see more of this color in the design. What would you say that would be? You can type it in the chat. Would you say it's, more red? Is it more green? Is it more black? But what color do we see more of happening throughout this entire cover, so to speak? What color would you say would be? You can type that in the chat. Like, oh, I see more of this color. I see more of that color. Okay. So yeah, we see a splash of red happening in that as well. You could argue that I see a lot of black happening, because if you notice from top to bottom, left to right, there's paint splatter all over, and the font and the title is black as well. So we see a lot of black happening here. We see a lot of red. The background is a little bit of an off-white, but that seems like you could argue that's the paper. Unless we had it in front of us, that's could be paper in and of itself. But we know that the artist designed on top of this more blacks, more reds, more curved lines, more organic shapes, so to speak, right? And these are the things that bring it together. Does that make sense? So harmony is, I see a lot more of these elements. I see a lot more of these things happening in the design, okay? Then the easy stuff is the variety. So then what's different, right? What is different in the design that the designer is doing? Well, different colors, right, is an obvious one. We see red versus black, which is a different color, okay? Would you say that the font has different shapes, guys? Yes or no? You can type it in the chat. Would fonts constitute as shapes? And could you say that there's different font stylings in here? Okay, what do you think? What would you say about that? Yes or no to that? Would a font be different, and could that kind of fall under the shape category? Different fonts, variety of fonts. And then people say, well, what is the font that is variety? Well, I mean, if we looked at that title, the title is bold, right? That is a bold font versus the subtitle, which looks like a narrow or light font or normal font, as it would be called. But one is thicker than the other. So fonts are like shapes. We could even say that there's varieties of fonts or font styles. One is bold, the other one is regular, right? So there's even that as a factor as well. And if you haven't taken typography, this is some of the things we cover in typography as well in design. So even the font styles, the differences of font styles is variety as well, okay? So that technically are the 6 things that every design should indicate in your write-up. Does that make sense? So for every slide that you do, okay, you get 1 point for every principle that's called out. So you definitely want to mention contrast. We definitely want to have focal point. We definitely want to have balance. We definitely want to have proportionate scale, harmony, variety. You have to call those out, okay? Because I can guarantee you that all designs have them. If we didn't see it, then we're not looking for it. And I'm just kind of breaking it down, or we don't know how to look for it, right? The how is asking these questions. Oh, what is the contrast? Okay, is it size, shape, color, right? Which is the principles of design found on Canvas. It's literally this slide that's in front of you. What's the first thing you see? What's the focal point? You only have to ask those 6 questions, right? Is it symmetrical or asymmetrical balance? Okay. Is there proportion and scale, something bigger, something smaller? Is there harmony? Is there what elements do you see a lot of, more of, predominantly? And varieties, what are the differences, the slight and subtle differences that are happening in the elements as well? Okay. Does this make sense in terms of the breakdown? I want to make sure that we cover that, because I know that it can be a little confusing to know what we see. Tomorrow we'll do another one of these, and we're going to take it up a little bit higher, and we're going to look for those 6, and we're going to try to call out those 6 principles. So all your slides will have 6 principles, 6 methods, right? And we want to make sure that you call those out. Okay, if you can highlight them for me, even better. You can say, hey, professor, here's, right here in my design, I said it, I highlighted contrast, there's the focal point, here's asymmetrical or symmetrical balance, here's the proportion, here's harmony, right? And here's variety. So I said it, here it is, professor, it's highlighted, I made it, I can see it, can you see it? Okay, and so that's going to help with the writing component in the process. Okay, again, the reason why we do this, guys, is that if you can break it down, if you can deconstruct it, then you can design like it. Okay, and so that's how good designers are made. They know how to deconstruct and break down visuals and art, and that requires critical thinking, right? The purpose of college is to get everyone that comes through college to be a critical thinker and think critically about different contexts and different situations, like this class, which is in reference to design and art. Okay. Okay. Does that make sense? If it does, give me a little thumbs up emoji, or you can type in yes, makes sense. But I just want to break it down, right? This is a good thing. This is going to help you get better at your design, and this requires some practice and critical thinking. Okay. So we're going to make sure that everyone does this and writes like this tomorrow for our discussion. We'll do this again tomorrow at the beginning of class. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to some Photoshop. Okay. I know we had a little bit of an extended start because of Photoshop issues, access codes, and things like that. So let's finally get into this, and let's talk a little bit about just the program in and of itself. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we are basically going to move on into selection tools, and more specifically, selection tools and the techniques that go into it. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen for a second so we can pull that up. And we'll definitely need Photoshop to kind of do this. Okay, now the selection tool and technique is basically a really important tool in Photoshop, because it's the stuff that helps you pick out a part of the graphic or the picture in the program, right? And we kind of know this instinctively, right? The selection tool has a unique purpose of defining the part of the image, so it actually helps you like pick out specifically a part of an image that you want to edit. It could be all of it, it could be one part of it, right? Typically, it's one part of it, and you define it. And the way we call that definition of that part of the image in Photoshop is called a selection. I selected it, I picked it out, right? And all the tools you make those selections are known as selection tools. Okay, so this is a vocabulary term, right? Like, what did you select? How are you selecting? What are your selection tools? But I selected this area. That's typically how we talk about it when it comes to Photoshop. Okay. And why do we need them? Like I said, it changes the appearance by applying an effect, right? So if you want to select something, or if you want to affect something, right, then you select it, right? So if you want to make a change, you select it. If you want to apply it, you select it. You want to make an effect, you select it. It adjusts parts of photographs, lighting or color, right? You can even replace a background with this tool, and you can even copy or move pieces of your picture or selected content from all over the place, right? So it's really great. It's really powerful, and we're moving these little squares, these little pixels throughout the entire program, and that's what makes it so cool. Okay, and these are the key tools that we'll be working with today. Okay, we're going to be working with the marquee tools. Okay, we're going to be working with our lasso tools or polygon lasso tools, and we'll be working with our quick selection tool as well, and magic wand tool. So your selection tools or your key tools are typically what is pointed here in the arrow area. So wherever you see in that black arrow, it's going to be the dotted square. It's going to look like a lasso tool, and it's going to have like what looks like a paintbrush with a little dot or marching ant around it, I also like to call it. And these are the tools that we're going to be working with, these key tools that you see on your screen. Okay. And I'm just mentioning the names of the tools because not everyone has finished the names of the tools. So just in case you didn't get a chance to name this part of your Photoshop tool, these are the tools: rectangular marquee tool, elliptical marquee tool, single row marquee, single column, lasso tool, polygon lasso tool, magnetic, quick selection, magic wand. Okay, so these are selection tools. Okay, and just to kind of break it down, we're going to go over it right now. We're going to actually do these exercises. So we're going to work on, like I said, rectangular marquee tool. We're going to jump in on it, and I will direct you to Canvas right now to do it. If you like to follow along, go for it. If you want to watch the video later, then that is okay. But we're going to basically work on this together, and we're going to launch the program and kind of make that happen. Okay. If you're still downloading your programs due to issues in the Photoshop, please continue to do so. Again, this is also relatively light. It's not heavy duty. So when we get into collages, it'll obviously start to kind of ramp up a little bit, but do not worry, everything's available. Okay, where do I find these images? We're going to go to day 7, and under day 7 here, let's move this over here. We're going to go to Photoshop Fundamentals, Selection Tools and Techniques, day 7, bottom of the list. And we're going to click on Activity, Photoshop Selection Tools and Techniques. Okay, we're going to open that up. And you're going to notice the picture, the objective. Okay, the objective for today is to understand and apply the basic or fundamental understanding of Photoshop selection tool and masking techniques. And we have 3 files available for you here, highlighted in blue, so that you can refer to it. Okay, what are these links? Okay, first link is basically the step-by-step guide booklet. So this is a little bit older, but I think it's still relevant for today. So if you need like specific step-by-step instructions or guides, this is the step-by-step guide that can help you do it. So step 1, step 2, step 3, for those folks that prefer to read it. That's obviously available for you there. So we'll be using a quick selection tool and the steps there. If you're sort of a list person or want to keep this for your records, you can. So that is totally fine. Okay, so that's available. The second link here is the video, which is actually what I feel like most students prefer to go towards these days. And so this is the video demo. So let's say today something happens with Zoom and we lose communication. The videos are actually here to help you go through that process. So I actually have the videos ready to go. When you double click onto the video, it actually shows you the steps with no audio of how to do the exercise. Okay, so in this exercise, we're going to go to the rectangular marquee tool. We're going to look for that there. Okay, and then we'll click, drag, select that area, select and mask. Okay, and then you're pretty much done with that area and you've masked it. So we're going to go through that process together, and there's multiple steps for all the selections in the tools, and we'll save these files as well. So you'll have access to save those. So if at any point we get lost, the videos are there to help you. Okay, so that's going to be super helpful from this process. Okay, the last link at the bottom, it says download Photoshop selection tool sample images. There are 4 images here, so we are going to click onto that folder, and that's actually where we get our images. So we're going to start here, and then we'll refer to the video there as a reference and kind of move us in that direction. Okay, so we'll start downloading these images. You can start with any of these images. You can start with image 4 if that's easier, but we're basically going to click onto the image, and we're going to download them on the upper right hand side here. Okay, so we're going to download that, and we're going to set that up. Okay, so let's go ahead and download each of these images. I'm going to click onto the download button, download. Okay, if you have Chrome, it typically goes on the lower left. If you have Safari, upper right, you'll see like a little downloader. Safari is for Mac, Chrome can be for Mac and PC programs. Okay, we have the sky image here, image 1. We're going to download that on the upper right-hand side. We'll go to image 2, download that. Okay, and then we'll go to image 3, download that, and we'll set you up there. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, we're at 10:30. So I feel like we could probably take a quick 5-minute break to kind of set it up, and then we'll jump into the actual step-by-step guides. Is everyone okay with that? We'll take a quick break. You can give me a little thumbs up emoji, have a drink of water, refill your coffee, take a sip, use the restroom if you need to. Let's go ahead and do a quick 5-minute break. So it's 10:30 right now. 10:35, we'll come back and we'll open up Photoshop and we'll start to create our edits, and we'll use our videos as references as well to kind of help us through that process. Okay. All right, let's take a 5-minute break, guys, and we'll return in just a few moments. Okay. We'll see you then. Okay, guys, so like I said, we're back and from our break, and we're going to begin our downloads and take it step by step. Okay. If at any point you get lost, you could obviously look at this recording. For those of us that are rewatching or looking at the rebroadcast right now in this video, you can look at it. But also, I actually pre-recorded the steps inside of this Photoshop video demonstration folder, and that is in the assignment for this for today, which is Canvas. It's link number 2. Click here for Photoshop Selection Tools video demonstration. So I even broke it down to videos just to make it really simple. Okay, so if at any point you get lost, you have your videos as a reference. If you don't want to follow me and you want to go on your own and just go past me, go for it. It's totally cool. We're gonna just basically step it out and go in that direction, and I'll use the videos as a reference there. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and switch over to Adobe Photoshop. So let's go ahead and open up the program, and we're going to get that all set up here. Okay. So we'll launch it. If it's currently open, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji and let me know if it's currently open there. That would be great. And we'll get you set up and stable. And what we're going to do here is we're going to try to make a cloud document, okay, or a cloud folder, and put some of these programs into the cloud. Okay, so we'll make an attempt to do that right now. So like I said yesterday, this is our basically like our home interface, and you know, at the top is obviously the program's offering us options like, oh, you can use Photoshop for iPad if you want to. I'm like, okay, great, thank you for the notification on that, but I really just want to create a cloud document. Okay, what we're going to do here is that we're going to go up to this icon, looks like a little folder. Okay, and we're going to create a cloud document. Okay, so we're going to hit folder, and we're going to call this folder the selection tools folder, and we're going to hit save. And immediately you're going to see a folder on the upper left hand side say that a selection tools folder was created. Okay, I'm going to delete this one here so that it doesn't look any confusing there. Okay, so we have our folder here, and the goal is to kind of basically drop images in there. But when you create a folder, you'll always see within your folders these 3 little dots, the name on the left, right? And like a little drop down menu there. Now, when it comes to the 3 little dots, at any point, what the 3 dots do is that you can rename your folder, delete it, or you can move it to other folders, right? So it's basically like a little organizer for the cloud. And moving forward, graphic designers, well, most of them, or I would say maybe 50% of them, are pretty good organizers of their files. I'm somewhere in the summertime, I'm somewhere in the lower 50 percentile. And then when I get back to school and work, I'm in the higher 50 because I stay super organized. So as a rule of thumb, it's probably really helpful to stay very organized in your files and put images in folders and name your folders. Okay, so try to keep organized. You can get crazy disorganized really quick. on your files. And so try to be as organized as possible. Create folders. Folders are very helpful, okay? We're gonna click onto that selections folder, and basically it'll say, hey, there's nothing in this folder. Add things to start filling it up. So you can start creating certain things by adding into this folder, files and things of that sort, and you can sort of add them in and create them and all that good stuff. So basically what we're going to do here is that we are going to open those 4 images, starting with image number 1, and we'll start manipulating them with our selection tools, okay? So we're going to go to get my tools here, move this up over there. I'm always trying to keep things very organized in the program so I don't lose out on anything. Okay, so we're going to go to open. And we're basically going to open image 1. Okay. And we're going to open it from our computer. Now, can you guys see a window on my screen by any chance? Looks like a little menu, and it has like multiple columns. Okay, cool. We want to make sure it's there. Now, depending on where your download is, if you have a Mac and you just downloaded your files, then chances are it's going to be in the downloads folder. Okay, so, all right. And Maria, if you just joined us, I basically just hit open, and we're about to open up the files that we downloaded. So when you open Photoshop, if you go to the open on the lower left and the red arrow, you can open up your file. Okay, we're gonna find my files. So I have a Mac. So my files typically go inside inside my downloads folder. So I'm gonna click onto the downloads folder and find that. Okay. So boom, and I have a lot of crazy stuff in my downloads folder. A lot of different files, things of that sort that is set up here. I'm basically going to click on to date modified, and date modified basically says, hey, these are the files that like are basically organized according to the date. So we did this today. These files, and you can see here on the lower left that those are my images there, right? So I can see image 1, 2, 3. I see today's date there. That's basically where my eye goes instantly to kind of see which one is which. And that helps me kind of clear my mind a little bit. It's like, where are all these files? Typically, you want to stay as organized as possible. So I'm just going to multi-click holding down my command key. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go, if you have a Mac, you can hold down your command key. I believe multi-option for PC, if anyone can assist me, is I think it's control to select more than one file. So if you have PC, then you would basically go to open, look for your folder on the downloads folder, if I understand correctly. And if you hold down I believe it's the control key, you can do more than one selection. So I'm going to select 3, 2, 1, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And I'm going to hit open, move this up here, and I'm going to hit the open on the lower right. So that blue button on the lower right that says open there, we're going to hit that and we're going to open the program. Okay. So let's open. Processing. And we should see these files open up. Workspace. Let me go to essentials here for a second. And we should see the program there and our items here. Also, want to make sure. So I see image 1, 2, 3, and 4 happening within the program here. And I want to make sure that I see, I'm going to reset the essentials. There we go. It should look like this for your computer because my essentials got modified a little bit. Okay, and so what we just did is that we just opened multiple images. Now, if you look up here on the upper right, there's the file format for one of these images. Image one, it says image1.jpg, is a file format, and then it tells me the percentage at the size that we see it and the color combos, okay? So basically what's happening here is that it's saying like, hey, this is RGB. This file is set up for basically screen color. It's a file known as a JPEG. So JPEG is basically the format that a lot of images tend to like a lot because it's high quality and compact. And each of your photos are in these little tabs. So if I click on to image 2 and tap it, it opens up that image, right? And when I hover over the tab, it kind of goes light gray a little bit. And I can basically click onto that image, opens up that for each one of these, right? So these are basically where all these multiple files are located, right? So these 4 images are basically located right here, and I can switch back and forth between them for each one, okay? So that's the first thing, okay? What I'm actually gonna do here is I'm actually gonna save this first on the cloud. So I'm gonna do a file save as, and actually, let me see if I can share my screen so that you see the full screen and not just the program screen. So I want to get to desktop 1, which is this one. Okay. So you should see my whole screen, which includes like the zoom, which includes like the zoom stuff at the upper right-hand side there. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to save this as a cloud document in my program. So I'm going to go up to File, Save As, okay. And when I go to File, Save As, I'm going to get a save window, okay. We're going to get into the habit of saving our files into the cloud to save on storage space, okay. So I'm hoping that everyone will have access to that. Now, you can save onto your regular computer if cloud or internet does not work. But I like cloud because obviously it saves to the cloud and I don't have to waste my memory on my computer for all these files, right? Because it takes up space. So we're going to save to cloud. Now, the way we can save to cloud is by directing your attention to this button, which is Save to Cloud Documents. So when you look at that, it says Save to Cloud Document. I'm going to hit Save to Cloud Documents. And you should see, I don't know if you can see it, but do you see a window on my desktop that says Cloud Documents, Image 1? It's kind of like a little black window that's floating around. If you do see it, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji, but you should see like this little pop-up window that's floating around here, okay? And it says Save Image 1 or Save As Image 1, okay? And it's going to say Cloud Documents. I'm going to select this folder, which is the selections folder that I just created, right? And I'm going to hit Save, which is the blue button on the lower right. Save. Okay. Now, it looks like nothing happened, but a little pop-up window jumps up. So I love Photoshop because they actually kind of say what it is. They say, hey, we're saving your work we're saving your cloud document to Adobe's cloud for you, so it's instantly updated for both iPad and desktop and available wherever you sign in. So if, let's say, you go to a different computer or a friend's house, or you come to any location, any place that has Adobe Cloud 2021, you just sign in with your email and you can retrieve this file anywhere, everywhere, okay? If you have an iPad, you can download the iPad Photoshop program for free. You can type in your email into the account, which, because it's free or you're paying for it and it comes included with that, and instantly in your iPad, it's going to show this file in the iPad. So you basically can access this file anywhere and everywhere, including sharing it with your teacher, right? So that's super helpful. This is powerful stuff, and it saves everyone's space on their computer, which is even better. So I like that aspect. Now, one thing I'm going to direct you, just kind of give you a little specifics on, is that if you notice where it says here in, let me use the square. Let's go back one, use the square. So right here where it says image one in the blue square, it changed it to, instead of a .jpeg file or .jpg, it is now a .psdc. Now that means Photoshop Document Cloud. So PSDC is Photoshop Document, and you'll normally will see a lot of files like old school files that are not in the cloud. They'll say like Photoshop doc.psd. Anything that's in the cloud is going to be known as .psdc. So the C is for cloud. Okay, excuse me. So that's how we know. And then we also know it's in the cloud because we see a little picture of a cloud there in the blue as well, which is kind of cool. So we see that. That's pretty cool. And let's go ahead and make a couple of changes. Okay, so let's go actually ahead and make a selection and save it. Okay, and before we do that, okay, we're going to click on to got it. So I got it. Thank you, Photoshop. And we're literally going to make a selection here. Okay, so let's begin. Let's go ahead and select something. So over here on the left, you're going to select the rectangular marquee tool. Okay, that's letter M on your keyboard for marquee tool. You can see that I'm kind of highlighting it a little bit on the upper left-hand side there. You're going to click on to the marquee tool or hit letter M for marquee. And we're literally going to hold down the Alt Option key. And if you have a mouse, you can scroll up and down to zoom in. So if you hold down your Alt Option key or your Windows key, if I'm not mistaken, you can zoom in and out of your picture, which is kind of nice. And I'm going to zoom into the top of the roof. I'm going to click onto the corner here, click, hold the click, and don't let go of your mouse. And basically what's happening here is that I am seeing this little animation in black and white. They look like little marching ants. They're kind of nicknamed. And that is known as your selection. Okay, that is your selection. So when you see the marching ants, that basically means that I've selected an area. Okay, when you see that, we're now going to activate and click onto the select and mask button up here. Go ahead and click. Okay. And we're going to change select and mask option. Let me go ahead and set that masking up, edge detection, global refinements, feather contrast. Mount output to layer mask. Just output as a selection is okay. Oh yeah, show edges, show original over, and we'll do the overlay. Okay. Oh yeah, that's what we'll do. Okay, and if you see the black and white, which is basically the selection, the program is basically directing you to set you up there. But what we're going to do here is that we actually want to preview the selection in the overlay. So we're going to go up to the view menu here. And when you see the view menu, let me go ahead and show you here, which is right over here. When you go to view menu and then hit the down arrow key, we're going to select overlay. Okay. And what this does is that it allows you to see in color what's been selected and red, which is not selected. You can go back to marching ants mode. You can see it on black, on white, on the layer. I like overlay because I kind of like to see like what is the real thing that's being selected and what else is like being not selected. So I like to go V for overlay. And then basically you're going to click OK to that. And output to yeah, well, I'll put it to a new layer. So select a mask. We're going to scroll. We're going to select the overlay view, like I said. We're going to come down or scroll down. And then over here where it says output, we're going to select output to, and output means I'm sending it out towards a layer mask. And we're gonna click OK. Okay. Basically what happened was that we created a mask, we selected the area, and we outputted it to a new layer. And now everything has disappeared except for that image that's available there. Okay. And that's that exercise, or for that one image, and it's so far so good. Okay. If you got that, maybe, and it's successful, can you give me a little thumbs up emoji just to make sure that that came out successfully. Just want to make sure that everyone's okay and not having issues or anything of that sort. Okay. All right. And if you have any questions, or if you need me to slow down, maybe give me a little red X just to say, hey, Professor, slow down, or could you please review something, or I have a question, issue, or concern. Okay. Okay. So we're going to save the file. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to save it. And it's saving under our cloud document, right? Because we already saved it as a cloud doc. Okay. All right, let's go to image number 2. You can totally close this if you wish, or move on to image number 2 here. And we're going to go on to the next exercise, which is going to, or next tool. And before I forget too, I wanted to make sure that we got a visual, which is the rectangular marquee tool. Oh, let me bring this up. So the rectangular marquee tool is literally the exercise that we just saw happen. So that was rectangular marquee tool. Okay. So we just did that. We just did that together as a class, and it's looking great, and it's looking pretty awesome. Oh, that's what it was. It was supposed to be selected and layered. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to do a quick selection tool. And we're going to use this tool here, which is the quick selection tool. It looks like a paintbrush with like a little marching ant around it. So we're going to go over that. It's the letter W on your keyboard. And it's going to quickly paint a selected area using the adjustable round brush tool. Okay. So we're going to do that right now and put that together. And I totally wish it would relink also. Darn. So we'll come back to that, but I do have that video, which is for the demo. And as a matter of fact, let's see if I can pull that up, because I would love to do that. So quick selection video demo. Insert. Let's see. I didn't even say quick selection video demo. Oh, well, that's okay. I don't. Oh, that it is here. Okay, I do have it. Look at that. Yep. I'm gonna go for it. I really would like to have that as the setup there. Okay. Because if I can save myself a little bit of time on the playing video component, then that's helpful. But if it's going to take forever to the insert, then maybe not. That's probably what it is. Okay, here we go. Okay, so for this exercise, what we're going to do is that we're going to go to the quick selection tool. Okay, we're going to click on to the quick selection tool W, and then we're basically going to go around the green mask and select it. Okay, now again, we're doing the same thing. Okay, we're going to select that area. I'm going to hit this plus button to add to the selection, and we're going to select and mask that particular portion. Okay, and I'll add to that in a little bit. Okay, so we're going to do that next for that next exercise. Okay, let me switch over to Photoshop and set it up. And we're going to put that together. So Okay, new share. Let's go back to Photoshop. Boom. So we're going to go to W for this one. Quick selection tool, which is the W here. There's the previewer. Okay, and my brush is a little small. So for this one, I'm gonna go to my left and right bracket. So if you look at on your keyboard where it says the letter P for Paul or play, you'll see a left bracket to the right of that key and a right bracket, okay? Now, if you hit the right bracket on your keyboard, the brush size gets bigger. And if you hit the left bracket, okay, it gets smaller. Okay, so you can adjust your size of your brush on your keyboard using your left and right brackets. Or what you can do is that you can come up to the brush tool, which is right up here in the red square. And if you select that, then you can basically move this and slide your size to the left and to the right to adjust for size. And be careful, if it gets too big, you can actually go way past the size that it goes right past the screen. You don't even see a circle to begin with. So I like using that, or I like using my left and right key brackets because I get to see the size of the brush bigger and smaller. But what we're going to do here is we're going to select and go around. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on the green. And here's the marching ants showing up again. Let me zoom in a little bit so everyone can see it. And I always like to select with keeping in mind the edge of the circle. If the edge of the circle comes near her face, it's going to select part of her skin. Okay. And so I'm just going to go around her face, excuse me, around her mask. I guess I knew something was going to come because this has a mask. This was like 2018. So maybe I knew something was coming in the future. Anyways, so that's selected. Okay. And it's awesome because Photoshop knows instantly, hey, you want the same sort of color, you want the same selection. We're going to select that and select that for you automatically. Okay, cool. So from here, we are going to now create our mask. So we're going to go to the select mask option. I'm going to click on to that. And it remembers the last setting as before. So it actually remembers the V overlay. Okay. And I'm going to bring it down here. And I'm going to go down to output. And we're actually going to make this selection a little different than the last one. So we're actually going to go to output to new layer with layer mask. So option 2, 3, 4. So new layer with layer mask. So we're telling the computer, hey, as you're masking this, let's create a new layer with a layer mask on it. Click OK. Okay. And what you're going to see is that it's masked. Okay. And if I click onto the little eye to the left of the previewer on the lower right where that square is, then I notice that there's the mask. Okay. That's been applied. Okay. And so that's looking pretty good, but we're not done yet. Okay. I'm going to shut off that eye. Okay. And I'm going to click on the background layer again. So if you notice, I have two layers, as they're called. I have the background, which is the original photo. And then I have a second background copy, which is the layer that's on top. Okay. I want to switch on the background layer. So the eye is on. Okay. And we're going to make sure that the background layer on top of it, which is the eye, we're going to make sure that that one is off. Okay. Because we're going to do this again. We're going to mask it again using the original layer. So make sure that blue is off, no eyes, but the red little tiny square is on with the eye. Okay. Okay. Let's try it again. Okay. We're going to go to the lasso tool for that one. So let's try the lasso tool. I'm going to pull up the lasso tool video for this one, and we're going to show you briefly what that looks like. Okay. I want to add I'm just adding the video just to make sure that everything's looking okay here. So the next exercise we're going to do as it's loading is that we're going to do the lasso tool. So we're going to actually connect onto the lasso tool. Here we go. And here's how the lasso tool is going to work. Okay. We're going to select the lasso tool. Okay, make sure that the add-on is there or the select single piece is added. And we're basically just going to select the eyes. Okay. And the lasso tool is literally what it is. It's kind of like you're drawing the selection yourself. So rather than the computer know, you're actually going to draw her eyes as best as you can. Okay. But you're going to select the eyes. Okay. And we're going to mask it and add it on there. Okay. We can do it with the eyes and not without the mask necessarily, just to save a little bit on the time. But what we're going to do is that we'll select the eyes for this particular exercise. Okay. And that's the lasso tool that's represented by L on your keyboard. Okay. And it looks a little bit like a little lasso. Okay. So it's the first one on top, the lasso tool here. And it's basically drawing the selection, the area that I want to select. Okay. So we're going to give that a go. Let me switch over to Photoshop, and then we're going to select that and get that going. So here's my image again. I'm going to go to the lasso tool. Oh, excuse me, which is L on your keyboard. And I can go Alt Option a little bit and zoom in on the eye. And basically, I'm going to click, hold the click, and go around the eye. Okay. I'm going to drag to the right. I can hold down the space bar if I'm zoomed in, get the little hand, space bar, click, move it to the right a little bit, or use my fingers to scroll, or I can use the little slider in the bottom to slide. But I'm basically going to, before selecting the second eye, I'm going to add on to the selection. And that's found up here, which is this little button indicated in the blue arrow. Looks like two squares overlapping. So I'm going to hit that because I'm adding on. And I see a little plus sign where the lasso tool's at. I'm going to click, hold the click, add on to the selection here, go around the eye as best as I can. Okay. For here, we're going to direct our, because we want to mask something, we're going to click on to the word background here at the bottom to activate that layer, because I want to mask that layer. So I want to make sure I hit background. It's highlighted in a lightish gray almost. And then I'm going to go up to select and mask to get to the select and mask option. Okay, great. So looks like the eyes have been selected. A little bit rough around the edges, but that's okay. Not bad for starting out. And I'm going to direct my attention again to the output settings at the bottom here. And I'm going to say output selection as a new layer with layer mask. Okay. So new layer with layer mask. And I'm going to click OK to that. And now I have two layers that have been created. And it shows it as background copy number 2 now in that setting. Okay. So background copy number 2 is the eyes. And it's highlighted with a little eyeball there. So it's showing you the little eyeball. And now I have background copy, which is technically the mask. Okay. But notice how for every selection, if I create a selection with a new layer, it's literally a new layer with the mask activated on it, right? And I've now selected it. Okay. We're going to save this under the cloud. So let's go ahead and save for the cloud. So we're going to go to File, Save As. Let me go ahead and go to the main desktop here so you can see the whole screen. Okay, we're going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to save to Cloud Documents. So we're going to save that to the Cloud document. And of course, it remembers the one that's checked off was the Selection Tools folder. Okay, now what I notice here is that it remembers the folder from previous, so it's defaulted. So it says, hey, this cloud document is saving to a folder called Selection Tools, and you have an image here called image 1 that you did about 15 minutes ago. Oh yeah, that's the folder that I want. So it's letting you know where it's saving to. And the name is obviously on top here, so it's saving as image number 2. But I want to save it to the cloud in this folder, and it remembered the last folder that I saved to, so that's great. So that's a good thing. And I'm going to hit save on the lower right to save it. And automatically we'll go to the cloud. Oh no. And now it's telling me that my scratch disks are getting full. Okay. Which means that my memory is getting low. So that's not fun. Okay, so I'm going to keep it going and hopefully it'll allow me to save. Okay, how many of you guys were successfully able to save on your computer? Give me a little thumbs up emoji. It looks like I got too much memory or too little memory, so it's giving me a couple of issues. No matter, we're good. I can still make do with what we got. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next one. We're going to use the magic wand. Okay, I know I'm baby stepping this out, but I just want to make sure that it is like so super like understanding so that there's no issues. But these are techniques that we're basically going to be using. We're going to be using overall in the program. So let's go to our keynote demo. And while that is loading, I'll show you what the tool is. We're going to go to our Magic Wand tool now. And I'll show you what that is. So the Magic Wand tool, it looks like a little magic wand. Okay. And Magic Wand is kind of like if I select one thing, it'll select everything else similar to it. It's really cool. And it's kind of like a fairy Disney reference where it's like, oh, the magic wand. And then when I tap it, it kind of picks everything else up like a magic wand. So you don't have to trace anything. You basically just click onto magic wand. You click onto the blue range of an image and it selects everything related to that. Okay. So let me give you a quick video of what that looks like. Magic wand is really cool. You basically are going to go to the magic wand tool, which is on the left, represented by the magic wand tool W key. Make sure you select not the first one, but the second one on your list. And you're basically going to click onto the blue on the upper left there. But you're going to notice that like only part of the blue is visible. So we're going to hit that 2 squares, the double square to add on. It's an add-on. And we're basically going to click to the other darker shades of blue. Okay. Because what happened is that the program, when it selects something, it only selects the same pixels in the same color, if that makes sense. So it's only selecting those specific shades of white in that particular image. Okay, so we're going to give that a go now. So let's switch over to Photoshop. Excuse me. I want to make sure nothing gets blocked. Okay, and we're going to go to Magic Wand tool again. Magic Wand. W here. Looks like a little magic 1 there. Okay. I'm going to click onto the area. Nice point sample, tolerance. Let's take a look. I want to make sure it's not doing the tolerance there for whatever it is. Alias and continuous. Point sample, tolerance 32. Anti-alias continuous. Deselect. There it goes. And I'm going to select the plus sign there, which is an add to selection feature. Click onto that blue, that blue, that blue. And I should have pretty much the sky already selected there. Okay. And we should be able to then go to select and mask on the upper right-hand side. So we're going to click onto that select and mask button. My scratch discs are full. Okay. But we're still going to do select new layer, okay? So I'm going to have to restart my program for a second. I'm still going to keep going, guys, but thank God for the videos, because I don't want to stop the portion of it. But you're basically going to select, make the selection, highlight, while I close this. Okay, don't save that. Select and mask. Yeah, I have to restart. I'm going to keep going so then using the video so that way we don't lose momentum. And then you're going to basically create a new layer on the bottom and save for the cloud. Okay, so do file, save as, save to cloud, save to folder. Okay, so because right now I'm having some memory issues and that's not fun. Okay. Okay, so once you're done, could you type in that you saved it? And then that way I know to move on to save and load selections as the next one. And then I'll load up that next video there. So then that way we can use that as a reference. Looks like I'm going to need a new computer. Okay, well, that happens. Anytime you have a computer that's full, it'll say scratch disk are full. And the way around that typically is to, well, save things to the cloud. That's one, but I'll probably have to delete videos because I have a lot of Zoom videos that are taking up space. In fact, let me go ahead and do that while you guys are working on it. And yeah, it's not a lot of videos. I think it's the Zoom video that's taking it a little bit there. Okay, but once you're done saving it, guys, can you go ahead and please hit that you're done, and then that way we'll set it up. And while that's happening, I'm going to go to the save and load selection video. And we're gonna kind of continue with that one, okay? Okay, anyone else working on it or almost done? Let me know when you save it under your cloud folder, and then that way you're moving forward from there, okay? If you're lost, give me a red X, and maybe you can kind of specifically let me know what is going on with that aspect of it, but I'm gonna still keep going and set it up. In fact, if you already saved it to the cloud, give me a little thumbs up emoji if that helps for those folks that maybe are having issues there. Okay. If you're having a problem, can you also send me like a private message or direct message and let me know that there's something going on and we can specify it? because if I didn't get a reply, I'm assuming that everything is fine and dandy, and I would hate to move forward and no one's like familiar with what it is that they're doing there. Okay. Okay, we're moving on. I haven't heard from you, so I'm just going to assume that it's done. Okay. Okay, so let's keep it going. So next up is the save and load selection. Okay, so save and load selection is going to be indicated with this. Now, save and load is basically allows you to like save a selection and load it up for future use. Okay, so like what happens if like you're making photo edits and or making edits, and the specific area that you selected, you wanted to save it, right? As you saw, like if I have to do multiple selections, it adds up after a while. Photoshop actually can save a selection that you highlight, which is really cool. So it can actually build it, it can save it, and you can load it up again. And we'll just kind of go over that process of what that looks like, okay? Now, if you click onto the same image, and let's make sure that it's moving on there, which is our Buddha image or Buddhist image there. If we go to that same image and we click onto the background, the original background layer at the bottom, just to highlight it, we're going to create another selection of that same area. Okay, so if you click onto background at the very bottom of Photoshop, then you should be able to get back to that layer and see this image again. So that's the first thing with the little eye that's activated. Okay, so we're going to load a selection. Okay, now the video here is showing you the select menu. Okay, now to save a selection, okay, you click on the select menu and save a selection. So let's just try that again. Let's load and let's actually save that same area again. So we'll do the selection one more time. We'll go quick selection, excuse me, magic wand tool. Okay, we'll select the sky again. Okay. Happening here. You can add on to that selection, like we said. Okay. And then from here, when you have a selection loaded, let's go to this video. What we can do here is that we can now go to select menu and save the selection. Okay. And when you save the selection, you can actually type in under the name, what is the selection? So it says document channel name. You can type in the name blue sky. Okay. When you type in the name blue sky, then what happens is that it will save it. And to load it, you can actually go back to select menu, scroll down to load and click on to blue sky and load it up again. So selections is really cool. You can actually save a selection, you can load a selection, and you can crop something, okay? So all I really want you guys to do is just save a selection and put it on there, which is also available in the folder, okay? Let me show you one last time. Select the sky or a portion of it, go to select menu, save selection, and where it says name, at the third line down, type in the selection. Oh, this is my blue sky selection. And it's a new channel. We'll click OK to that. And it's saved. Okay. You don't have to necessarily load it, but it's saved. Okay. And so that means that this file will contain selections that are loaded in, and I can retrieve it, open it at any point in the future. Okay. We're going to save that also in the cloud. So let's go ahead and save that. So we'll go to File, Save As. Okay, it's not in the video, but we're going to go to File, Save As, and you'll save that as a cloud selection. Okay, and my Photoshop is definitely having some scratch issues, which requires a restart. So we're going to keep it going just for the sake of time and get you going there. Okay. Okay, now. Okay, now if you got to successfully save your selection, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji, and that's saving selection. So the things that you highlight are great. You can highlight stuff that saving is great because you can save a selection. Anything that's highlighted or selected is saved. I love it. I mean, it's just really powerful stuff. When you, if you ever decide to take the Adobe certification exam, that is a legit question. That is in the test, right? So, which you can be certified to in Adobe Photoshop, which is great for hiring as well. Okay. Okay. Now I want to kind of highlight a couple of things that are happening behind this world of the of Photoshop. Okay. Now, about 2018, really 2015, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Photoshop started adding artificial intelligence into their program. What does that mean? Photoshop is getting smarter and smarter because computers are getting smarter and smarter, and they can see images and actually pick out images for you. Okay, so it's called Adobe Sensei. It's not an app, it's really a program, an algorithm that's happening behind the scenes in Photoshop when you develop something. And it's crazy because it knows when there's a subject or a person, it knows hair, it knows faces, it basically can identify parts of a person. And then you'll see a little bit tomorrow that there's a little bit of that happening behind the scenes. So you'll actually see that there's a little bit more power to it, which saves you so much time, right? Because I used to do this by hand without needing the algorithm to do it, but it's a really cool tool. So we're actually gonna give it a shot. We're actually gonna show you a little bit of this, and we'll kind of dip into it, possibly a little bit into maybe tomorrow. Maybe if we have time today, I think we'll have time today to do it if we save it and show you a little bit of what the new features are for 2021. But we're going to basically use this image, and we're going to use the select subject tool. Okay, so we're going to go to image number 4. Okay, and basically, let me load that up. Select subject. Yeah, that's this video. We'll load that up. The select subject tool, while that is basically, while I'm loading that up, is that the program knows what the subject is. In other words, if it's like a 5-year-old, if it's the program is like, it can see like a 5-year-old, it knows when it looks at an image, the first thing that you'll notice is this. So it's getting relatively smarter and smarter, and it's very easy. So here's how you'll activate it. You'll see your image 4. And basically what you're going to do is you're just going to select the quick selection tool. Okay. And then this button on the top where it says select subject, just click once on it. Okay. Look what happens. It is thinking like a 5-year-old. It's saying, oh, what's the first thing I see here? Oh, that person. Okay. Okay. Now notice what happened here. It knew, right? It just knows the subject. It knows the focal point in a way, if that makes sense. It was able to identify a background versus a foreground. I mean, this takes some pretty heavy loading, right? So normally you would have to, use your selection tool or use your pen tool to do something like this, right? But when you select the subject, it actually like knows who the subject is, which is crazy. So it does this for just about any image. Subject, first thing, boom, click, it'll pick it, okay? So you'll click on the select subject, okay? And now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna do a select and mask function with that same image. So we're going to basically see the select and mask feature, which is this button here on the right. So once we hit select subject, we're gonna hit select and mask, and we're gonna take a look at what that looks like a little bit and go forward from there. So let's take a look at the select and mask feature, and let's see what that looks like. So we're going to do select and mask. Bring that in here so it loads up. But we're going to take a look at some features for select and mask. And we're going to take a quick peek at what that looks like. So we'll give that a go. Matter of fact, while that's loading, we'll just switch over to this one instead so it doesn't take too much time. Here we go. So for this feature, what we're going to do is we're going to select and mask. So we're going to basically go up to the select and mask button. Okay, hopefully you see that. And under select and mask, we're going to hit this little circle with a plus sign. And you're going to notice that the select and mask feature, it's not perfect. It's not 100%, but we can paint parts that make it visible. So when I hit select and select mask and hit the little plus circular on the upper left hand, which adds to the selection, and then use my left bracket to make the brush bigger and smaller, then technically I can actually brush in or add to the selection, because even though it's smart, it can do it. And some areas might need less. So if I hit the circular minus, I can actually subtract out some areas and sort of add that to the mix and work some of the areas in the photo as it's being selected. So even though selected mask may not be like 100%, I can kind of use adjustments. I can smooth it out here on the right-hand column. If I scroll up a little bit, I can actually smooth under smoothing the refinements of that selection, and even work with edges and shifting the edges and things of that sort. It's pretty amazing at some of the things that the program can and cannot do. And so I can even play with decontaminating the colors and make the adjustments to it. So it's a very, very powerful tool in terms of like what it can and cannot do. Okay. Now, just to add on to that, if you scroll further down to the new layer, or basically you're going to output as a new layer with layer mask, then and click OK, save it to your cloud. You should be definitely set and done with those exercises. Okay, so that is the first round of exercises, and you guys are basically done. So for those exercises. So if you got that successfully done and saved to the cloud, go ahead and give me a little thumbs up emoji there. That way we can kind of see how that kind of set up for you there. But those are the selection tools and techniques, okay? It's very cool. And if you felt like it's easy, it should, okay? But this is probably going to be one of the most important tools overall when it comes to building and selecting specific areas within a photograph in the program, okay? It is some powerful stuff. And so you have some opportunities to kind of like add on to it, to build onto it, and make those selections, things of that sort, okay? Now, in terms of like how we're going to turn in the files, I have to restart the computer, so I'm actually going to hold off on the turning in of the files portion of it. But basically, there's we're going to share your folder, and then you're basically going to share the folder with me to kind of set that up. And maybe I can offer that to you really quick to see if maybe there's a way to do that. So it's not on file here. It's actually in my other demo image there. So let me see if I can actually direct you guys and see if we can actually maximize it, even though I'm having some slight issues with my program. Okay, so if we share the files, invite to edit dialog, save this, invite people to edit the dialog, and invite to edit button on the upper right. Yeah, so here's how it kind of works. And basically, when you go to your files, like image 1, 2, 3, 4, there should be on the upper right-hand side a little icon, which is the invite to edit icon. Kind of looks like a little person with a head on it. I'll repeat that process. And I'm trying error reading machine press reference. That will be reset to defaults. Okay, let's see if I can open it, my Photoshop. Nope, still not. Okay, no worries. We have Friday to basically turn in those links, which is great. But basically what's going to happen is that you'll be inviting to edit those files with me. And I'll go ahead and I'll put that in here into I'll share a little link here, which is invite to edit cloud document. And what you'll basically be doing to turn it in is that you'll be inviting me to edit. Oh, here it is. Perfect. So for all your files, basically what you're going to do is that you're just basically going to hit the little plus sign on the upper right hand side for that file. It looks like a little circle with a head of a person, plus sign. And you're basically going to say, oh, invite to edit and add a collaborator, which is basically going to be my email address. So I'll add this in here as instructions, so that helps. Invite to edit your files. So here it is. And then email to invite will be my Rio Hondo email, which is m_almena@riohondo.edu. Boom. Okay. And you'll basically be inviting me to see that file. Okay. iPad does it a little differently. You push the little button on the iPad, invite to edit, and add members to it. You can manage it, but I'll receive an invitation in my email to indicate that you are inviting me. Okay. So that's how I know you're done with the assignment, is that you'll be inviting me to edit that file. I'll click onto it, I'll open it, and then basically that'll be an indication that you know how to save onto the cloud, make an edit, shoot it over to me, and be able to share along that whole process. Okay. So that's really cool. This is actually a lot easier than it was before, than uploading files and screenshots and things of that sort. So that way we're all set. Yeah, you're going to do it for all the files. So for those 4 files, you'll send it over to me, and then I'll open them, check them off, make sure that everything's looking good, which chances are will be. And that's how we set it up. And that basically will teach you how to work collaboratively online and also allow you to learn those selection tools. So now we're learning as we're doing. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. So then let's kind of give you a little preview as what's to come. So the next exercise that we'll be doing tomorrow is, and let me go ahead and go to my presenter. Okay. Let's go over here. Okay, clear that out. Okay, here we go. Okay, so for tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to go over layer fundamentals and techniques. So we're actually going to talk a little bit tomorrow about what is layering and how does that work in Photoshop, and how should we look at layers particularly, which is a real basic overview. I'll try to run one of the built-in exercises inside of Photoshop, so then that way you can kind of give it a little bit of a test run and see how that works. But we're basically working up to the first exercise, and I'm starting to hear some of the files getting shared, so thank you guys. But we're basically going to be moving up to create this first little creative exercise, which is a career goals photo montage. So we're actually going to create a collage, okay, using your selection tools, techniques, and I'll show you a couple of cool ways to build a collage. But we're going to use the principles of design to design this collage for your career goals. So your future goals, your career goals, we're going to create this cool collage, and we're going to build it up and go and basically set it up there. Okay. I think it'll be really cool. I think everyone's going to really like it. I'll show you a couple of examples of different student work and collages, right? Some people want fancy cars and fly around the world. Some people want to travel to Europe and have families. Some people just want to do design and be illustrators. But whatever the case may be, there are different ways that we can kind of do that. And then I'll run you through the video on how to create a collage. And we'll have access to all that good stuff. Okay. So that's going to be our plan for tomorrow. And we'll be basically doing another warm up for the principles of design. And then we'll be doing the layering exercise and then moving on into the photo montage. Okay. So that's going to be our session for today. Hopefully you can review this video. We'll post it up in just a few minutes again for what we did today. And then of course the videos are available online as well under Canvas for today's assignment. So if you want to take a look at those specific videos and see the steps, please feel free to do so. It is there to help you and support you there. Okay. So now we're getting into the Photoshop building and designing stuff, guys. So keep it up. Want to keep the momentum going. And again, we're going to make the assignments due for Friday. And I'll probably make one little change to our principles of design assignment for next week, just to maybe buy you guys a little bit more time to write your presentation. So things of that sort. So we'll see how we do that for tomorrow. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to dismiss you early, about 12 minutes early. We'll see you mañana at 9 a.m. Have a great afternoon. Stay cool. And we'll see you for next time, okay? We'll see you then. Thanks, guys.